Okay, I'll go back to screen sharing now that I know.
Carolyn's got her hand up.
Oh, does she?
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, I didn't see that. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
you just mentioned the primal point. Isn't that
No,
another?
no, I didn't. I actually mentioned the primal will.
Oh, so sorry.
The
Okay.
primal point is the Bob.
Well, here in 15, number 1, it says the Israel signifieth the primal point.
What? Sorry, in which reading are you talking about?
The tablet of the food of all food. 15, number 1. Oh, it's number 5 actually. Number 5.
Let me pull that up so we can look at it.
Okay. Plus the children of Israel.
Okay, so and it's sorry. We're in reading number 5.
No, it's not that. It's 15:1. It starts, "O thou faithful one. When the breezes of love spilleth over the right hand of this."
Have we read this one yet?
It's in the tablet of the food.
Yes,
Yep.
in the tablet of food. Sorry. Thank you.
So you're actually reading the tablet itself. Is that what you're doing?
Well,
Or are you looking at the readings that I have here on the screen?
no, it's in the tablet actually. So when you
I'm
mentioned
not
it,
sure if we've gotten to that
Oh,
spot
okay.
yet.
all
Yeah,
right.
see, we're only in section 10.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. We'll get to 15, I think. I think that's in my plan. Okay. So Christians are more familiar with Lahut as the word of God, the Logos. We must always remember that this entity is the creator of the visible and invisible worlds, but is not God in his essence, Lahut. Okay, so 17 emphasizes this. Let me see here. Danielle is here, I see, tonight. Would you like to read 17 for us?
Yes. Every event must needs have an origin, and every building a builder. Verily, the word of God is the cause which has preceded the contingent world, a world which is adorned with the splendors of the Ancient of Days, yet is being renewed and regenerated at all times. Immeasurably exalted is the God of wisdom, who has raised this sublime structure. Tablets of Baha'u'llah.
Thank you. And from what we now know from the Tablet of All Food, these terms, the Word of God and the God of Wisdom, we're talking about the primal will. We're not talking about the transcendent Hahut. Okay. All the words that have ever been written in most of the other religions about God refer to the primal will, to the function that is performed by the primal will, who is the creator of everything. So it takes a little bit of getting used to this idea, but it's a useful one to have in mind. This is the realm in which all the manifestations of God form a single reality. They are all agents carrying out the decrees of God. This is the level at which Baha'u'llah says that we should make no difference between them. Because of their existence at this level, any one of them can say that they are another, or that they are the return of a previous manifestation. Okay, so number 18. Okay, Jack, you're next.
Mark,
yes,
can I say one more thing about Hahut before we?
Sure.
And Lahut. There are terms like, Paul Tillich, the theologian, he talked about the God above God of theism.
Okay.
So the God of theism would be Lahut, as you were describing.
Correct.
But the God above God of theism would be Hahut.
That's it.
Okay, and there are other, like Hindus, like Shankara, talk about Brahman as beyond attributes.
Yep.
And so here's another thing. The word emanation, which was really emphasized by Abdu'l-Baha, emanation. that from which all things emanate is Hahut, right? Or unless I'm misunderstanding. So how do we get Lahut, from Hahut?
Yeah.
It emanates therefrom.
Well, yes, but the Bob puts a very mysterious spin on that because he says that that it creates itself.
Oh, okay. We're not even allowed to think of that Hahut as doing anything.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's
But
very,
still the word emanation. So maybe the emanation is from Lahut down.
that's my sense of it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that's Harold. That's why I put Hahut in a black dot and above the diamond, because he's out. In actual fact, the Hahut, he's outside the whole thing. He's
Yeah.
in his own world, and we don't have access to it. So as Mark says, things only start happening in Lahut.
Okay.
God is actually outside the whole system. But as Baha'u'llah says in the Lahi Hikmat, the Tablet of Wisdom, we, in ordinary human language, we speak of God the Creator and so on and so forth because the scriptures affirm it, and so it's right. So it's just a question of how you express yourself, really. But Mark is giving us the more technical theological definitions now so that we can understand these things. But in actual fact, the God above God that Tillich talks about is indeed Hahut, and he's really, or she or it, right outside the system. The system begins with Lahut.
Okay.
Would you agree
The only
with
thing
that,
I'm
Mark?
trying to get across is that other faiths have other ways of saying this.
Yes.
Right.
We're not the only ones saying this.
True.
For example, Buddhists sometimes talk about the formless realm, formless. And you can't say anything about the formless realm. But then below that is the realm of form. Now we can start talking about it because it's forms.
But Harold, my sense is that Buddhism, in some of its flavors, suggests that it's possible for human beings to access that formless realm.
Yeah, I don't think they can.
Baha'u'llah would say that's nonsense.
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
possible.
Okay.
So anyway,
But my goal is to get people talking to each other, right? Which I think is part of the Baha'i project in the world. If scientists say there's a quantum pool of all potentiality, hallelujah, that sounds like a scientific version of Hahut, out of which everything else comes, but we're not allowed to say how.
well, I'm not so sure about that, Harold. I'm thinking
Okay.
that would be Lahut that they're describing.
The quantum pool of all potentiality would be Lahut.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that right, because there's too much descriptive material there
That's it.
to be Hahut. Thank you.
Anyway,
God's outside the system.
Mhm.
okay, so where were we here? Okay, so we're going to talk about the manifestations of God. This is a familiar passage from the Kitabi Khan, and I don't think Peter's here tonight, but how about you, Zilda? Would you like to read again?
These manifestations of God have each a twofold station. One is a station of pure abstraction and essential unity. In this respect, if thou callest them all by one name, and dost ascribe to them the same attribute, thou hast not erred from the truth. Even as he hath revealed, no distinction do we make between any of his messengers, for they one and all summon the people of the earth to acknowledge the unity of God and herald unto them the Cathar of infinite grace and bounty. They are all invested with the robe of prophethood and honored with the mantle of glory. Inasmuch as the cause is one and the same. The exponents thereof also must needs be one and the same.
Okay, so when we're talking about the oneness of the manifestations, we're talking about Lahut. We might want to refer to this as the trans-historical dimension of the manifestations of God. Before they take on the clothes that are necessary for the times in which they're going to enter the human race. Right? They have to adjust the message to fit the comprehension of the people that they face, and for 1,000 years or so ahead. In the realm of Lahut, the potentialities hidden within the essence of God begin to be actualized and revealed, but continue to remain within the Godhead itself. Okay, so here's Mujan Moment on that one. Hangame, how about you? Number 19.
The primal will emerges by a process that can be called emanation, whereby the source does not resolve itself into a phenomenal thing, the analogy being that of the sun and the rays of the sun. But once the primal will has appeared, it then becomes the source of manifestation. It manifests itself first in the divine names and attributes, and these in turn are manifested in a myriad forms through all levels of the phenomenal world.
So if I can come back to you, Harold, here it is, the word emanation being used by Moment to describe the process where Hahut somehow or other derives from Hahut.
You told me that we can't do that, but Mojan Moman just used that term.
Yeah,
The primal will emanates from Hahut, but maybe he's wrong.
that's what I'm
But
wondering.
yeah, okay.
I think we need to investigate that. I wish I had included the quotation of the Bob. I did that in a previous course where it was quite clear that there was no perceivable interaction between Hahut and Lahut, that Lahut creates itself out of nothing.
Yeah,
Self.
Mujan isn't wrong very often, but this may be one of the cases because, Mark, as you say, the primal will creates itself from itself. It's like spontaneous combustion.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually emanate from Hahut down.
Mhm.
It's very, very mysterious process. And the reason for that spontaneous combustion is, of course, to preserve the ahadiya business, the primal, the unmanifested primal oneness. I mean, I keep saying I sound like a broken record, but keep it simple.
Okay, you know, I've had this waterfall analogy.
System. He's outside the system.
Outside the system. So if you think of water cascading down the levels of reality, the water starts from Lahut, not Hahut,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
That's good.
Correct.
But where does it come from?
It makes itself. You just told us.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the mystery. Okay.
Then where does emanation come in if it's not the primal will?
I would say that the primal will emanates itself and then all the previous level or all the lower levels.
Okay.
I'm just pretending I know what I'm talking about here.
Oh, good. I'm glad you said that.
Hey,
Yeah, I
we're
remember.
right out there at the end of our understanding. There's
Yeah,
no
I
question.
remember your other classes where we had it all figured out, and then we realized we didn't have it figured out.
Well, look, you know, you're unmuted. In one sense, none of this is new. I mean, quote unquote new. You know, in Judaism, Harold, you should know this. You have the tree of the Sephirotic tree. It's in the Kabbalah.
Yeah.
And in a sense, the tree of the Sephiroth actually, in a way, follows what we're talking about.
Yes, it does.
From Hahut, Lahut, and so on and so forth.
That's
That
my
is-
understanding too. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it's a system. All of these things are a system that have tremendous connotations with regard to the creation of the world and the creation of the human reality. And the same thing with the Tao in another sense, because it says here, you know, it's from the Tao, you know, that everything is created. As it comes out with the Tao itself, you have the active and the recipient. Baha'u'llah refers to that in the Tablet of Wisdom.
Yep.
And but so likewise, the Tao says the same thing. You know, that that 10,000 things were, the universe was created from the interaction of these two forces, which Baha'u'llah says are really one force. And now in the Book of Changes, the I Ching, which, as you know, is a very ancient Chinese book, you know, its system of hexagrams, of which there are 64, they never start with one. You can't do anything with one. And you really can't do anything with two. But you can with three. So out of the three, you've got both the creative and the receptive, the actor and the recipient, and so on and so forth. And out of that number three comes everything else. Yeah. And so it goes on from there. The things that, what I'm trying to say is that all of these things are actual systems that refer to both the reality of the universe and the reality of the human reality too. So,
David, I have to stop you there because I'm running out of time to get through the material I have.
Oh, you're running out of time. Oh, good.
But we are going to cover some of that material that you're talking about in the next couple of quotations. So,
I had a question.
Okay.
A friend of mine was trying to explain to her 6-year-old grandson the Big Bang Theory. And when she finished explaining it carefully in terms that a 6-year-old could grasp,
Yeah.
very bright 6-year-old, I might add, he said, but Granny, where did that all come from that had to blow up? So it seems that it doesn't matter how we approach this. We always have to start with something that isn't there.
Yeah.
And turn it into something that is there.
Well, that's one of the fundamental questions of all the different religions.
The one and the many.
Yeah.
Mark, you better go forward. We'll never finish.
I know. I'm only halfway through. Sorry.
You're not going to make it.
I'm going to have to do a lot of talking here. Okay, so in previous religions, Lahut was known by many other titles: Jehovah, the speaker on Sinai, the Logos, or the word of God, and the Nous, or the divine intellect. So let me see if David Oak is still there. If he would read number 20.
Yes, he's here.
Excellent.
Great. The ultimate reality in its impersonal aspects at this level of Lahut is designated in the concepts of the Cloud of Unknowing in Christian mysticism, Al-Haq, the absolute reality in Islamic mysticism, Brahman in Hinduism, Nirvana or Dharma Kaya in Buddhism, or the Tao in Taoism. Certainly some aspects of the use of such terms as the Cloud of Unknowing, Al-Haq, Brahman, Nirvana, or the Tao may well correspond to the hidden treasure, the unmanifested essence, Hahut. But insofar as these concepts are made the goal of human endeavor, i.e., that human beings strive to reach this entity or realize their oneness with this entity, they are operating at the level of manifestation, at the level of the primal will, Lahut. This is the source of manifestation and hence the source of all being, and therefore the point of origin towards which human beings seek to return. And that's Mujan Moben, the God of Baha'u'llah.
So you can see right here, this is where Baha'i distinguishes itself from many other religions, by really putting up a barrier between these two levels and saying, stop trying to attain Hahut. It's not possible. If you want to strive for anything, go for Lahut. But even that's not really available to you, as we'll see. It's the third level where we could maximize ourselves. Okay. The distinction between Hahut and Lahut is easily made. If you're seeking a personal, intimate relationship with God, you are directing your attention and energy towards Lahut. If you are awestruck by some aspect of creation or by the fact that it exists at all, you are recognizing the handiwork of Lahut. If, on the other hand, you throw up your hands in dismay when you try to conceive of God, you are at least acknowledging the existence of the realm of Hahut. Okay, number 21. Let's see who's next here. Marie Palmer. How about this? It's a bit long, but it's a good one.
Yes, number 21.
Correct. Are you able to see it?
Yes, I'm just bringing it up on, I have another computer that I'm using because I connect on my phone, which is rather small. Reading number 21. It is, in fact, this stage that most people think of when they use the word God or Allah or YHWH, Jehovah in Judaism. For when most people use these words, they are usually referring to an entity that is acting in the world, is sending prophets or messengers, is giving laws, is angry with human beings for breaking the holy law, or pleased with human beings because of their obedience. Those aspects of these words that relate to this entity acting in the world, being creator, beneficent, wrathful, etc., or those aspects that imply a personal relationship between that entity and individual human beings relate to this level, to the realm of Lahut. Such actions and names cannot be attributed to the hidden treasure, Hahut. They must apply to this stage at which the primal will emanates from the hidden treasure and manifests itself. Taken from Mujan Momen, the God of Baha'u'llah.
Thank you. And there's that word emanates again. So maybe Jack, you may have to write an email to Mujan at some point and say, hey, do you really believe that? Anyway.
Oh boy.
Yeah, well, maybe we shouldn't go down that road. We'll know it among ourselves. So there are countless historical terms for Lahut. Here are a few more. The Word, the only begotten Son, the speech of God, the command of God, the first mind, the universal intellect, the throne, the simple reality, the perfect man, and the Holy Spirit. In the Baha'i writings, Lahut is known as the tongue of grandeur, the most exalted pen, the Lord of Lords, the all-glorious Abha horizon, the heavenly court, and the throne of God. We may also be justified in saying that this realm corresponds to the Ama, the cloud or mist that Baha'u'llah described in his very first known writing, the Rashi Ama, the Cloud of Unknowing. Okay, so that's enough of the first two levels. Now we're going to go into something that's a little more understandable. The third level is called Jabarut. the omnipotent realm. The world below the sphere of the divine, Malajut, is the realm of Jabarut, the realm of decree, command, or divine power. Okay, Jennifer Phillips, how about number 22? I think I'm going too fast here.
It signifies the paradise of the inclusive divine unicity, the golden land, the surging depths of the realm of the divine omnipotence. It is the realm of thou art he, God, and he, God, is thou allotted unto those servants who do not cry out, except with the permission of God, who act according to his command and ever restrain themselves in accordance with his wisdom, just as God hath described them in the Quran, for they are the honored servants of whom it is written, they speak not till he hath spoken, and they do his bidding.
Thank you. So this is the realm of the revealed God acting within creation. It is called the realm of God's actions and decrees, the paradise of conditioned oneness, that's Wahadiyah that we were talking about earlier, and the all highest paradise. Okay, let's see who else we have on tap here. I think Bonnie's here tonight, isn't she?
Yes, she is.
That'll be number
Yes, I am.
23, Bonnie, 23.
This is the level at which God's command and decree are created and from where they are sent to earth. In some religions, the agents of God at this level who carry out the commands of God are described as archangels. Thus, for example, in Islamic angelology, the commands of God are Gabriel is the carrier of the revelation. Israel is the angel of death, and Israfel, the one who announces the day of resurrection. It is the first level at which substantiation occurs. In other words, this is the highest level to which something contingent and substantial can attach itself.
Okay, and that means that human beings can attain this level. So if you want a goal, that's it. Jabarut.
Mark, the manifestations as differentiated are in this realm too.
Absolutely, I'm coming to that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Excellent point. Momen points to a pilgrim's note in which Abdu'l-Baha made it clear that these entities are in fact images rather than having an actual independent existence. Well, because it's a pilgrim note, I don't know how much weight we can put on that, but it does help, I think, to give you a sense of the, what can we say? It's not a contingent reality like ours, right? It's not physical. Juan Cole says that this is the realm in which prophets identify themselves with God on the level of his attributes. In other words, this is the level at which manifestations have specific historical purposes to achieve, which are relative to the needs of the time in which they appear. Baha'u'llah describes this second aspect of the station of the manifestation in the following paragraph. Okay, let's see if we have, well, Harold, it's up to you now, number 24.
The other is the station of distinction and pertaineth to the world of creation and to the limitations thereof. In this respect, each manifestation of God hath a distinct individuality, a definitely prescribed mission, a predestined revelation, and specially designated limitations. Each one of them is known by a different name, is characterized by a special attribute, fulfills a definite mission, and is entrusted with a particular revelation. It is because of this difference in their station and mission that the words and utterances flowing from these wellsprings of divine knowledge appear to diverge and differ.
And if you wanted to sort of flesh that out a little bit in your own minds, you might want to consider the differences, the apparent differences between the Bab and Baha'u'llah, who had clearly different goals, right? And a much shorter period of time in the Bab's case. And yet, when you consider the two of them at Jabarut, they're one. So,
You know, Mark, I know we're running out of time, but I've often asked people to imagine that you have a forum and like 4 or 5 manifestations of God are sitting there, you know, like Moses, Buddha, Zoroaster, etc. And they would be different, and yet they would say they were sent by the same source, right? So they're on the same team, but they had different missions, and they would all appreciate that they had to say different things at different times to different people.
yeah, that's exactly true. Okay. Let me just move on a bit here. So this level, Jabarut, could be described as the historical dimension of the manifestations of God, in contrast with the trans-historical dimension of Lahut. From the human perspective, this is the highest level of spiritual development open to us. Now that's from, let's look at what Baha'u'llah has to say about this. That would be Linda Russell.
Out of the wastes of nothingness, with the day of my command, I made thee appear, and have ordained for thy training every atom in existence, and the essence of all created things. And my purpose in all this was that thou mightest attain my everlasting dominion, Jabarut, and become worthy of my invisible bestowals.
So, in his Arabic eulogy for Thomas Breakwell, Abdu'l-Baha confirmed that this early believer was one of those rare individuals who was able to attain this lofty goal. Here is the authorized translation of the key sentence. Now, is Rahul still with us?
No, he had another Zoom call to go to.
Okay. Eva's online though, I think.
She was. Let's just have a look. Yep. Are you there, Eva?
Sorry, had to unmute.
Yeah.
O Breakwell, O my dear one, thou hast quit this earthly world, Nasut, and risen upwards to kingdom, Malajut. Thou hast reached unto the grace, Fight, and the invisible realm, Lahut, and offered thyself at the threshold of its Lord, Jabarut. Abdu'l-Baha, selection of the writings of Abdu'l-Baha.
So, I mean, if you were reading that without the insertion of those Arabic terms, it would be easy to misunderstand it or to not realize that there are different levels of being talked about here. But a person like Ishmael Valesco is able to insert the original terms from the text itself so that we know which ones are being referred to here. The two writers of Breakwell's biography, Lakshman and Lepin, provide a detailed commentary on this passage. And this next one is an excerpt from that. Nina, it's number 27.
This suggests that Thomas Breakwell attained the presence of the divine manifestation Baha'u'llah in that station of splendor and power, distinct from his station in the world of Malakut. For the world of Jabarut is at the same time the world of the divine will and also the world of the manifestation. So, Thomas Breakwell, without having entered into the heart of the world of the divine manifestation, attained that point which marks its frontier, the tree of Tuba, as it is in the original Arabic, also called the Sidratul Muntaha, the name given to the last tree of the oasis before the desert begins, beyond which he caught sight of the world of the manifestation of God and the face of God, as is promised in the Quran. This is the highest station to which a human being can attain.
That's so uplifting. My goodness.
Oh, yes, it is.
Whew.
Lucky him.
If you want a goal, there it is. You've got all the authorization you need to be able to make that as your mantra. Okay, so now let's move on to the fourth level, which is Malakut, the kingdom of God. So here's what Abdu'l-Baha says about food in the realm above the physical world, which is called Malakut and is known as the angelic realm. Oh, I think we might have to go back to the beginning of our list. Oh, goodness. Let's see. Is David Andrews still on? I know we weren't supposed to ask him, but.
He's here.
Okay, David, maybe you get to say something to us. Number 28.
You'll have to unmute David. There we go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It signifieth the paradise of justice, the verdant green land, the fathomless depth of the kingdom of God, allotted to those servants whom neither traffic nor merchandise beguile from the remembrance of God, since they are the companions of the light. They enter therein with the permission of God and find rest upon the carpet of the Almighty. Oh.
Wow.
Which level is that again, Mark? 28?
This is Malakut.
4.
Yeah, it's the fourth one. According to Juan Cole, this realm is inhabited by those of God's servants who have detached themselves from the riches of the material world. In other words, human beings can attain this world while still living in physical reality. Those who do so are said to be angelic in nature. Abdu'l-Baha apparently lists 7 stages of the ascent of the human soul in one of his letters, which has not yet been authoritatively translated. And in that case, Malakut is the second last realm humanity may attain. The final goal is Jabarut. So while Jabarut, just putting a couple notes here. While Jabarut is the world in which God's decrees and commands are created, Malakut is the world in which they are carried out. In a meditation revealed during the fast, Baha'u'llah writes of the Jabarut of decree and the Malakut of the execution of the decree. In earlier dispensations, the manifestations of God in this realm were called angels, while in the Baha'i writings, they are called the concourse on high. The realm itself is known as the all-glorious paradise, the Abha kingdom, and also the unseen world. Baha'u'llah provides a more detailed explanation in the tablet of Arka. All right, let's see here. Okay, Bob Andrighetti, go back to you for number 29.
Number 29. The meaning of the kingdom Malakut in its primary sense and degree is the scene of his transcendent glory. In another sense, it is a world of similitudes, alam mithar, which existeth between the dominion of light, dominion on high, Jabarut, and his mortal realm, Nasut. Whatever is in the heavens or in the earth hath its counterpart in that world, whilst the thing remaineth hidden and concealed within the power of utterance, it is said to be of the dominion of Jabarut. And this is the first stage of its substantiation, taqweed. Whenever it becomes manifest, it is said to be of the kingdom, Malak. The power and potency it deriveth it deriveth from the first stage, it bestoweth upon whatever lieth below, from Mojan Newman.
Okay, thank you. So that's the waterfall idea that Harold was suggesting. So it starts at at Jabarut and then comes down through Malakut and then ends up in Nasut. Okay. The scene of his transcendent glory. Now, the world of similitudes, we're going to talk about more in a second, and that is an exact match, as far as I can tell, for the imaginal realm that we spent so much time talking about in Ibn Arabi. And notice that whatever is in the heavens or on the earth has its counterpart in that world. We did talk about it as a transitional world, which had access to everything that was in the higher realm and also what was below it. It's that isthmus idea, that's where things get mixed, particularly if they're transiting either downwards or upwards. Okay. So Moman provides two helpful footnotes to this passage. Baha'u'llah explains elsewhere that the scene of his transcendent glory is the place of the residence of the manifestation. So while he was alive, that would have been in Tehran, it would have been in Baghdad, it would have been in Constantinople, Adrianople, and Akka. The second footnote concerns the world of similitudes, which we've had lots of exposure to, but just as a quick referral, let's go back to Durham, number 30.
Alim Mithal, the French Orientalist and philosopher Henry Corbin, has preferred to coin the phrase imaginal world to translate this term, since the usual translation, imaginary world, gives the idea that this is something that does not truly exist, whereas in fact, the realm of Malakut, being ontologically closer to the absolute, is if anything more real than this physical world.
Now that raises a very interesting point, that as you ascend in these levels, things are becoming more and more real, and in a sense, closer and closer to God. So any little journeys that we take into Malakut are to our benefit, I believe.
Mark, the near-death experience research confirms all this. People come back and say it's more real up there, yet people down here think of that as less real.
That's right, until you've had the actual experience. Okay, so that's all we're going to say about Malakut for the moment. Let's go to the last level, which is Nasut, the human mortal realm. The lowest realm of God, which may be counted as the fourth or fifth realm, depending on whether Hahut is regarded as a realm at all, is much more familiar to us than the others. Baha'u'llah explains how this world provides us with spiritual food. Okay, I think we're back to Margaret now. That's number 31.
It signifieth the realm of the paradise of the divine bounty, the crimson land, the yellow secret, the snow white mystery, and the point of the human realm. In it are the proofs of the remembrance supreme, if you are of those who are informed. From Baha'u'llah, Tablet of All Food.
So that's not the way any one of us would describe the human realm. I don't think. There's significance to it that I think we pass by most of the time.
Well, Mark, I think one of the reasons why Baha'u'llah speaks so highly of Nasut, and you're right that we tend not to think of it that way, is because, and I think he says this in the Tablet of All Food, Because the manifestation of God has dwelt in this realm.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly right. Yeah. So this is the realm of humanity, which itself includes a hierarchy of stations. In his commentary on the Surah of Rum, Abdu'l-Baha explains that Nasut can be subdivided into the mineral, vegetable, animal, and human kingdoms. And the human kingdom can be divided in many, many ways as well, which we'll see next week. Although this is the lowest of God's worlds, it is important to remember that each created thing within this realm can manifest one or more aspects of God. By acquiring divine attributes, human beings are able to attain or comprehend higher stations. This is why Baha'u'llah refers to Nasut as the paradise of the divine bounty, the crimson land, the golden secret, and the snow white mystery, in addition to its more mundane name, the human realm. These exalted titles point to Nasut's enormous potential, to its future as the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven, which we're all working towards. Okay, so that's the conclusion of the review of the Tablet of All Food, and that, by the way, is only a small portion of that tablet. So there's lots and lots to consider. So now let's talk about a conclusion. Knowledge of these 5 worlds of God helps us to clarify some of the seemingly opaque language in the Baha'i writings, especially for those who did not grow up in a Muslim environment. As an example, Mujan Momin draws our attention to a single sentence within the long obligatory prayer. As he understands this passage, the last 4 realms appear to be addressing the first realm. And Leslie, would you read this one for us? Unblemished, number 32.
32 and 33 are the same, aren't they?
Yes, and almost exactly the same. You can read both, but let's do it one at a time.
I testify unto that whereunto have testified all created things, and the concourse on high, and the inmates of the all highest paradise, and beyond them the tongue of grandeur itself from the all glorious horizon, that thou art God.
So, to an English speaker, I'm not sure how much that really means. Unless you know about this background, about the levels of the worlds of God, I'm not sure you would really understand what he's saying here. It would be easy to miss. In English, the hidden differences are hidden. Inserting the Arabic equivalents transforms what might appear to be fanciful, flowery language into a hierarchy of divine worlds. And so that's what Leslie's going to read now, 33.
I testify unto that whereunto have testified all created things, Nasut, and the concourse on high, Malakut, and the inmates of the all highest paradise, Jabarut, and beyond them the tongue of grandeur itself from the all glorious horizon, Lahut, that thou art God, Hahut.
So that puts a different complexion on that sentence, does it not?
Mark, I hope you're going to show us your excellent work in which all the different ways in which these terms have been translated, right?
Yep.
Good.
It's an incomplete list, but it's impressive. One of the things that I hope will have become clear in these talks is that there are many synonyms for each of the 5 levels of this cosmology in the Baha'i writings and those of other world religions. So I've compiled some of these into a rather imposing list. So I'll just stop sharing here, and then I'll go into the other one.
Mark, at some point, Jennifer has a question. I don't know if you want to answer it now or.
I beg your pardon. Sorry, I just went to the wrong document. Let me just pull it up first. And then,
okay.
What am I looking for? The synonyms. What? There they are. Okay, so So as Harold was pointing out, what I've done is I've showed a few of the equivalents in the Baha'i writings for Hahut, and then a few others as suggested by Momen and a couple of other writers from other world religions. And then I've done the same with Lahut, Jabarut, Malakut, and Nasut, all on one page. So that's a very interesting thing to reflect on. And depending on your own background, you may be more or less familiar with certain of these from other traditions. So this will snap into focus a little better, I think. So as we read the Baha'i writings in the future, I beg your pardon, sorry, Jennifer, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Mark.
Yeah. What am I doing? I'm going to stop sharing and see everybody's faces. Okay, Jennifer, go ahead. Oh, you're muted.
Okay, so it appears that in each level, things get more and more differentiated, right? So from Lahut, then the manifestations are sort of in the primal will at that level. Okay, so a oneness. And then when they come down to Jabarut, they're differentiated in terms of personalities. They also exist at the level of Nasut as in human form. What about the level of Malakut? Like, how do the manifestations, like, do they skip a level, or do they manifest in, like, what kind of form do they manifest in the level of Malakut?
Well, I think the short answer would be in visions and dreams for individual people.
But I'm talking about the manifestations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So there are countless stories of people having dreams of the manifestation, giving them some sort of indication as to what they need to do with their lives, etc., or decisions that they need to make.
Mark, I don't think that's what Jennifer means. She means,
okay.
How do the manifestations exist in Malakut? And I think the answer is that they have their own individuality in Malakut, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But is it more differentiated? You know, like as I'm saying, you know, each level, things seem to get more and more differentiated as you go.
Yeah. In Malakut, Jesus is Jesus, Muhammad is Muhammad, and the Bab and Baha'u'llah are the Bab and Baha'u'llah.
So they keep the same form.
Well, I don't know what their form is, but presumably the Christian goes to Jesus, the Buddhist goes to Buddha, and we go to the Bab and Baha'u'llah.
But at the level of Lahut, they're in a oneness, okay, in terms of the primal will, right? Yep. And they differentiate at Jabarut. So logic would say they would differentiate even more, maybe. Okay, the level down. Like, well, there's oneness, and then there's a differentiation, and then it seems to miss a level, and then, you know, they're each in Nasut.
Well, my sense is that what's happening is when they emerge from Lahut into Jabarut, they have a mission given to them, and they're told that certain names and attributes will be more dominant in their particular historical circumstances, and they're going to this particular group of people at this time, etc. When they come to Malakut, then they start to take on the essentials of, or the specifics of the time that they're moving into.
Okay.
So that they know that they have to couch their language. In Baha'u'llah's case, they have to use a great many references to the Quran, and fewer to Christianity.
Mark, I have a theory about this I'd love to share.
Well, please go ahead.
Briefly, you know that there's a prayer that says that the manifestations are the educators of all beings, visible and invisible.
Yes.
So imagine that there are educators for invisible beings. They won't be invisible to us when we get there. They'll be visible. But in other words, to use a human term, task forces, which I love, there will be task forces and things to do up there. And we'll be working under Baha'u'llah's direction. He'll be our educator in that form of our existence, just like he is here. And we can't really visualize this very well, but anyway, that's how I look at that. So they're at all levels, and at that level,
that was my point.
They'll be our educator, our prime educator. And like if I'm on a committee up there that suggests what books people should read, then I'll be working not alone, but with a group of souls, and we might consult Baha'u'llah about that. How can we do that better? Anyway, just a way to visualize some of that.
Okay, so Jennifer's point is important. She's got the process right, because it flows from a oneness down to differentiation, as you were saying, Harold. It goes from the one to the many. But let's not forget this. The Malakut is also in this world. When the manifestation lives in this world and you're in his presence, you're in Malakut already. So it applies both in this world and the next, and as Marcus said, in the world of dreams. But it also applies here when the manifestation is walking on the earth, who's ever near him, who has the spiritual perception to see and to understand. That person is in Malakut, maybe even in Jabarut, I don't know. But the problem is that, as Mark has done a magnificent job in finding all the different translations of these terms, but it almost creates an extra problem in the English language, because there are so many. I wish in a way they had just left the terms in the original language, but because it looks like these are so many different things, and perhaps they are so many different things. The one and the many again, which is one of the hardest, the Greeks said, to solve, the one and the many.
Okay, so
that's all, helpful, because it appears that human beings can go Nasut, Malakut, up to Jabarut. So manifestations should also be able to, be at the different levels. And
they're walking, they're all 4 levels at the same time everywhere they go.
Yeah.
Just like we are, sort of a combination of the mineral, the vegetable, the animal, and the human. Right. They have those 4 and the ones above us.
Right. Wherever Baha'u'llah was, that's the Qibla.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, friends, I have to move on because I've got a little bit more left to go before we finish in 8 minutes. So.
Sorry, Mark Durham has his hand up.
Oh, he does. Oh, okay, Durham.
It's okay. I'll say it at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So as we read the Baha'i writings, let me say, one of the things that I hope, I've already said that. As we read the Baha'i writings in the future, with our chart of synonyms for these 5 cosmological realms at the ready, I predict, based on my own experience, that many other previously enigmatic passages will suddenly jump into sharper focus. For instance, here's a passage I recently came across during my daily readings. Number 34. Let me see who we've got here. Okay, how about Alan?
Sure.
34.
Now, we, of a certainty, have had no purpose in this earthly realm, Al-Mulk or Nasut, save to make God manifest and to reveal his sovereignty. Sufficient unto me is God for witness. We, of a certainty, have had no intent in the celestial kingdom, Malakut, but to exalt his cause and glorify his praise. Sufficient unto me is God for a protector. We, of a certainty, have had no desire in the dominion on high, Jabarut, except to extol God and what hath been sent down by him. Sufficient unto me is God for a helper.
So without some knowledge of the 5 realms of God, it might appear that Baha'u'llah is merely saying the same thing 3 different ways for some reason. Now we can appreciate the fact that he is actually describing the impact of his revelation at 3 distinct levels of divine reality. Modern day social scientists have noticed a curious linkage between language and the ability to perceive objects visually. Apparently, we are simply unable to see what we cannot verbalize or think. So the last reading is going to be, how about Lori?
I'm sorry, Mark, I don't have the readings printed out.
No, I'm sorry, I was asleep at the wheel here. There you go, number 35.
Thank you. Unlike the other senses of smell, touch, or taste, there seems to be a close, if complicated, relationship between sight and language, both of which come into their own approximately the same moment of maturation. As Robert Rivlin and Karen Gravel note, the ability to visualize something internally is closely linked with the ability to describe it verbally. Verbal and written descriptions create highly specific mental images. The link between vision, visual memory, and verbalization can be quite startling.
So, by articulating and confirming the existence of these cosmological levels, Baha'u'llah is in effect opening the door to worlds which are available to mankind from this point forward. He is inviting us to open our spiritual eyes to levels of reality which have coexisted alongside physical reality since the beginning. From this, we can infer that the human race has attained a stage of development at which the possibility of breaking through to a vastly richer appreciation of its multifaceted environment is now realizable. 2 key ingredients are required to accomplish this monumental task. 1, motivation, in the form of clear divine direction supplied by Baha'u'llah himself. And 2, willpower. Human beings must choose to align their energy with the divine direction. Now, since I finished this, I read an article that's right on this subject that would have taken us too far afield to include, but I wanted to bring it to your notice. 2 people by the name of Kavion Milani and Nafa Banafazir wrote an article that was published in March of 1999 called A Study of the Pen Motif in the Baha'i Writings. And I've made a graph or a chart of it. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. So this is a teaser to get you to read the article. And I think I can probably find a PDF if people are interested and send it to everybody. It's a fascinating article because of one thing. What it does is it takes the divine presences that we've been talking about tonight and Ibn Arabi talked about for so long, and then it connects it with the 4 of the levels of the Bab's 7 stages of creation. This is the only place I've ever seen these 2 linked together. And you'll also notice that the colors are mentioned here. This is an absolutely fascinating article that I would highly recommend. Anyway, okay, so now Durham, you had a question or a comment to make?
I have a question and comment. The first question is, do you think that Breckwell had in mind to reach these levels in the way he lived his life? And whether we as human beings, obeying the laws and doing the service and doing all of that, are we supposed to look forward to rise in these levels. The same thing with the 7 valleys. You know, sometimes you look at yourself and you say, oh, I think now I am at level 3, you know, in the valley of love. But in 3 weeks, you see, oh, we're still in the valley of search. So we keep on moving up and down. But my question is really, is it a goal that we have to put in front of our eyes, you know, to ascend in this? That's the question. And the comments is that these 5 definitions, Nasut, this is an Arabic thing. It's translated as humanity, but Nas itself means people or humanity. Malakut comes from malaika, from angels. Okay, Jabarut comes from the verb jabr, which means order or demand, things like that. So, but then Hahut, I think it is a one word, but what does it mean? I mean, some people translate it as divinity, or in Arabic, we call it Eluhiyya. Eluhiyya comes from, like you use the term heinous, something like that. So what I'm trying to answer also Bob and Rigetti about, so it's not 2 words, it's a 1 word, you know? And the same thing with Lahut. These 2, I can't find that it is 2 words, but Jabarut, Malakut, Nasut, they come from, you can take the origin, the root verb of the word itself. But let's go back to my question, is because I'm really interested I ask myself all the time. In the 7 Valley, I ask myself every week, because I read it always to see where I am. But in this level of these 5 levels, it's unbelievable. I can't figure it out. Maybe somebody can help me.
I want to open that to everybody. I'm not going to pretend to answer it.
So restate the question there, Gom. Restate it again, please.
I said, when Thomas Breakwell, unless Abdul Baha told us about him, we are not sure if he knew where he reached and whether his aim was to reach to that level. You know what I mean? So then I asked myself, do I have to put this in front of my eye, that because I'm obeying the laws and doing this service and stuff, because I want to go to higher level, or to recognize more and more?
Well, my sense is that in order to make progress in the faith, you have to forget about yourself, right? And to serve others, which is probably what point you're trying to make about this. But at the same time, I also have to say that it helps to have an articulate sense of what the world around you is. And that's the point I was making with that last comment about being able to see things only when you can articulate them. So Baha'u'llah has provided these things to us in glowing language that's very attractive. And I think we would be derelict in our duty if we didn't pay attention to what he's said. What we do with them is another story. But I think we can use them to inform our own spiritual progress and education programs that we design in the future, for instance, for other people. Where are we trying to take people? So now we have a very clear sense of what our goal is. It's Jabarut. That's it. We're not going into Lahut. We're not going into Hahut, which is very useful because a lot of people spend a lot of time, a lot of their lives aiming for Hahut. And it's crazy because there's nothing in it for them. It's not going to happen. So now we can be much more tightly focused on a goal that is something that we possibly could perceive or achieve. But we have to remember that it's God's grace at all times that's involved here. We're not in control. but it helps to know a little bit more about the environment we're in. Anyway, what do you think, Paul?
Mark, picking up on something that Derham said about Jabarut being the realm of command,
Yeah.
kind of reduces it to the fact that Jabarut being the highest level we can reach is the level of obedience.
Yes.
Because Jabarut is the command. So the highest level you can reach is the level of obedience.
That's a good
Even
point.
though we aspire to divinity, but the door is always closed. So it's consistent.
Breakwell was a special soul. He was different. And that's very clear from Abdul Baha's visitation tablet. And Bob, he used to employ child labor. And speaking of, because he owned at one point, I don't know what kind of a manufacturing business, but Abdul Baha said you shouldn't be doing that. He immediately sold the business, got out of it. Do you know that Breakwell wasn't even a Baha'i for a year before he died? Less than a year. And May Maxwell saw some kind of a transformation in him. He was chosen because she saw the difference from one day to the next. He left the first time he met May Maxwell. He left, he was walking down Champs-Élysées in Paris, and some kind of a mighty wind wrapped around him, and he heard a voice say, "Christ has come again." This is pretty amazing. So when he was dying of tuberculosis, and I've read some of his letters in the Maxwells of Montreal, they're beautiful to read. He actually prayed for an increase of suffering so he could rely more on God. Actually, I think more on Abdul Baha. I love his declaration. He said, "My Lord, forgive me, I believe." That was his declaration of faith. "My Lord, forgive me, I believe." And so he said that he wanted his suffering to increase while he had tuberculosis so he could rely more on God. Now, Vergam, whether or not he had in his mind he was going to Jabarut, I have no idea, but I'll tell you this. I have no doubt in my mind that Breakwell wanted to sacrifice his soul 100% for the faith. There is no question about that.
I think Jennifer had an answer.
Pardon?
Jennifer wanted to say something.
Oh, sorry. I talked too much.
No, I was just going to say we should do things for the love of God and not be tempted by the things of this world or the next, right? We're told that, so.
Jack, that comment that you made about Breakwell wanting to suffer more sounds very Catholic. I'm just wondering, does he come from a Catholic? Did he come from a Catholic background? Do you know?
I don't know, but this sounds like almost masochistic when you think of it, but it's not that. It isn't that. It's like, Baha'u'llah said every time he passed a tree, he wished, he could be impaled on it to sacrifice his life for God. Like, we can't understand, people that don't have a spiritual outlook, they don't understand these things. They think it's weird. They think it's sick. They think something's wrong.
Well, being raised a Catholic, I always remember my mother saying, if you ever feel pain, dedicate it. Don't ignore it, dedicate it.
There you go.
Because, and then it would invoke all these images of the Catholic hierarchy and so on.
She was right. But there's a fine line there between masochism and, suffering for the sake of God type of thing. We have to be, and, many religious, in Catholicism and many other religions cross that line. And the unhealthy side, right?
So folks, we're
Mark,
we're 8
there's
minutes over time.
there's a question from Bill and Sherry.
Okay.
Maybe we could end there.
Yeah, that'll be our last question.
So you mentioned that you need to be and have the will and the alignment, and that everyone has the capacity, if they have those things, to reach this level. Is that a prerequisite for all humanity before we have spiritual unity?
No. Why would you say that?
So what level does humanity in general need to be in order for there to start to be a spiritual unity? And what is it that will motivate people, that, like Durham was talking about, is this something that a motivation towards this that Baha'is might have who are pursuing their spiritual growth? What motivates the humanity and the individuals within humanity as a whole to potentially start seeking a more elevated spiritual path?
The writings, wouldn't you say? That's one of the beautiful things about the writings, is that they will address you at whatever level you happen to be. And we're going to see in the next 2 weeks how Abdu'l-Baha talks about many levels of the human soul. And the writings will speak to people at each one of those levels and suggest the next thing that they need to do in order to progress to the subsequent level.
So how does the individual Baha'i pursuing these higher levels, how does that help humanity come together spiritually, if it's only individual Baha'is focusing on this?
Well, the actions that they take are intended to improve the nature of their relationships with people around them, to develop the civilization that they happen to be part of, to move things forward. They don't have to know anything about these 5 levels, but it is curious that Baha'u'llah chose to write something so explicit about something that's been talked about for centuries, and chose to give them his confirmation. Now, what we do with that, I'm not sure. And Durham has raised an interesting point.
It's the same question, I think, as Durham, in terms of trying to put into context, what is this gem? What does it mean?
Yeah.
Is it something that we should all move toward, the light of it? Is it something that by obtaining it as individual, it empowers us as our spiritual leadership in humanity as a whole? In other words, like you said, Baha'u'llah brings this up and makes it a pretty strong point of making sure that we know about this.
That's right.
Why?
Well, you could ask the same question in the 7 valleys or in the hidden words. Why are they there? Well, they are all made of that creative word that works magic on us. But there's a difference between the Kitabi Akdas and the hidden words or the 7 valleys in terms of the words that are used and the impact it has on you.
I think, Mark, just one. I think with Bill, I think the answer is in the human heart, and things are happening anyway that are taking shape anyway with regard to something the House of Justice has just done, and in relation to the United Nations. I think the answer is in the human heart, and that's a very personal, individual thing, and yet it's a very collective thing, because we're all tied, in this sense, to the manifestation, all of us. And so with regard to that, well, I can say influence and what we do, you mentioned service, deeds. And I think that the teaching aspect comes into this very, very much. But just the way we are, you know, in our hearts is the most important thing for now, I think.
Yep.
If I can just put it that way.
Okay, Durham, do you want to wrap it up for us? What was the point behind your question?
I wanted to hear opinion of the friends.
Okay.
I'm just
Oh, you are.
I am in the first valley of the seven valley. I'm in the valley of search.
Okay.
You know, but you said something at the beginning is really when in our life should forget about ourselves when we do whatever we do in the path of Baha'u'llah. But it is good what we are learning here. We're learning gems that will help us in our life. I look at it this way, you know, whether I understand it fully, you know, or not, that's another thing. But at the same time, I should not attach myself to such progress or such rank or so. That's all I want to hear more about this. And thank you very much. Thank you, Mark, and everybody for the comments.
That was excellent. Yeah.
Well, folks, I think we've run 15 minutes over our time. Sorry about that, but I think it was an interesting session. I hope you agree.
No, it was terrible.
We've got two left
No.
on Abdu'l Baha.
Never, Mark.
That's David's best too.
When David says that's terrible, that's his way of saying he liked it.
Oh.
Nobody asked for your comments, Jack.
Thanks for letting us know.
Anyway, good night. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the cold
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mark.
and the rain. Bye.
Thank
Terrific.
you so much.
Good night, everyone.
Very enlightening.
Hello.
Bye.
Aloha.
Okay. Well, people don't want to leave. I'm going to leave.
Have you got a minute, Lori? Just wondering about our get together and the weather.
Yeah,
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling sort of okay. How are you feeling?
Well, I mean, generally, sorry, two things. How are you feeling physically and how are you feeling about getting together when it's cold?
Feeling good, thank you. I was thinking that we maybe could go for a walk. I was thinking of a place where I've been a couple of times recently, which is Pine Grove. Have you ever been there? It's part of the NCC property.
Where is it?
Well, you would just go down Conroy past Hunt Club a little bit. You turn left on Davidson and it's parking lot 18 on the right. So it's part of the NCC and they have a big parking lot there and they have trails on both sides of the road.
Okay.
The only thing is that the parking lot's quite icy, but we would walk across the road and walk on the other side and the trail shouldn't be icy at all.
Okay, I'd love to explore that.
And it's nice, like, because it's wide. It's like 3 lanes wide, the trail.
Yeah. Is there any place to sit? Do they have any park benches there? Or?
They do have in the parking lot area 2 picnic tables, but it's not an attractive surrounding. You're right at the parking lot, but yes, they do. But they do have, because I saw one day when it was like really warm weather on a Sunday, which during the week that doesn't happen. There's not many people there at all. But across the street from the parking lot, there is a big open area. And I saw that there was a group of about 10 people with their chairs there.
Oh, okay.
And so that would be okay. But I don't know what else, Linda. What were you thinking of?
Oh, I thought of Patterson Creek in the Glebe.
Yeah.
Just because it's pretty there.
Yeah.
I haven't really found, nothing inspired me particularly. Because I'm thinking about the
Well,
weather and how cold it's going to be, but I think we should just dress for it.
um, if there's no wind, it makes a huge difference. If the
Yes,
sun is out, it makes a huge
it
difference.
does.
It's
You
supposed to
can be
be a
quite
sunny,
comfortable.
yeah, it's supposed to be a sunny day. And when you're in the trails, if there is wind, you're sort of protected.
Protected. Yeah. Well, let's try that.
Okay.
That sounds good. Can you send me the instructions? I didn't write them down, but the instructions you
Yes, of
just
course I will.
mentioned.
Of
Yeah.
course. What time
And
did you want to do?
are we doing this as a sort of a lunch hour thing or later, or doesn't
Well,
matter?
not late. We should go when the sun's going
Oh
to be the
yes, so
best.
sometime between 11:30 and 2:30 in that time frame.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well,
Exactly.
let us know. We're flexible.
Oh, well, you think too,
We'll
but
think too,
I'll
yeah.
send you those directions. Yeah.
Okay.
So how do you feel now that all your choir stuff is done?
Oh, it's not really done. Things
Oh,
keep
you're
happening. I can't get it. It's like I can't get it off me.
Oh,
I'll tell you sometime. It's okay.
yeah, okay, okay.
Are you bringing a snack then, or are you bringing?
Oh, I haven't really thought, Linda. It's really.
Well,
Let's think about that.
we'll think about that. Okay,
Let's
we can discuss.
Let's think about that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So, but you'll have a break during Christmas anyhow, won't you? During the holiday?
Yes. Yeah. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, like a 2-week break or?
Well, we have one more event on the 22nd.
Oh.
And then there'll be a break. Yeah. So that's
So
good.
is that a concert that's going to be on?
No, it's a carol event.
Okay.
Which originally, don't get me started, we were supposed to do it outside.
Yes.
But Ottawa Public Health came up with this rule that said you have to be 16 feet apart, which is ludicrous.
Yeah.
And we want to know what research that's based on, because all the studies we've read have said if you're outside and you're wearing a mask and you're 2 meters apart, that's good. And suddenly the 2 meters morphed into 5 meters, which is 16 feet. And it's just Ontario that's saying that, not other provinces. So I just read a letter today from Choral Canada and Choirs Ontario. So they're starting to push back because it doesn't make any sense. Like, who's coming up with this? Based on what?
I know. Well, the restaurants did push back on some of the stuff, and then they got to have indoor seating again.
Yeah.
Not that I would go, but apparently transmission was like maybe 2% or 3% from people being in restaurants.
Yeah.
And gyms. So then we were sort of allowed to.
I don't think they're looking at the results. Like in the States, they've been following 5 recommendations from a very large study at the University of Colorado since March with no outbreaks, because they have these huge programs of the band program and choir programs that are across all the high schools.
Yeah.
So there's a big coalition because they're very, very motivated to do this in a safe way. And they followed the instructions and they haven't had any outbreaks.
Yeah.
But somebody in the Ontario government thinks you have to be apart. They think you have to have plexiglass between each person, which in fact actually creates a bad little pocket for the aerosols to hang. So that's wrong. And they think you have to be 16 feet apart. So I want to know who is coming up with this. Anyway, that's where I'm at. Makes me angry.
Just a little.
Because it's stupid.
Yeah, it's so funny because, they have these regulations that change every second day.
Yeah.
And so somebody asked me, like, I talked to my relatives in BC, they say, well, how many people can you have together? And I said,
who knows?
I don't know, because I gave up, because you should just stay at home anyhow.
I know. Yeah. I know.
So it's like, well, I don't know anymore, because they've just started to clamp down a couple of weeks ago in BC.
Yes,
And now
they've had some bad numbers.
Really are clamped down. Yeah. Okay, well, that was lovely, Linda. Thank you for tonight.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for listening to me.
You
Okay,
do
so
it
we'll
so
talk.
You do it so graciously.
Well, I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing everybody's faces, and it's gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay. Well, thanks. Thank you.
Okay. So
Okay.
we'll email tomorrow, and we'll see you Friday.
Directions. Then tomorrow we'll think of a time and
Yeah.
off we go. Okay.
Sounds great.
Bye for
Okay.
now.
Bye-bye. See you.